Silence is rarely recognized as violence. It doesn't shout, it doesn't insult, it doesn't explain itself, and yet it wounds in a way few words ever could. When someone disappears without explanation, without closure, and without a goodbye, what remains is not only the absence of the person, it is the absence of meaning. The human mind cannot tolerate emotional gaps. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. When the end is taken away, the mind turns against itself. Ghosting is not simply the act of stopping replies, it is the sudden withdrawal of emotional presence. It is a decision to disappear rather than take responsibility for ending a connection. For the one left behind, this is not just rejection, it is psychological abandonment. It is being forced to live with unanswered questions, suspended expectations, and a reality that never fully arrives. From a psychological standpoint, silence is interpreted as a threat. Being ignored activates the same neural pathways associated with physical pain. The body reacts before the mind understands. The chest tightens. Sleep becomes fragmented. Thoughts repeat themselves endlessly. The person doesn't always know what hurts, only that it does. Silence places the nervous system in a permanent state of alert, constantly waiting for a message, a sign, a reason that never comes. What makes ghosting especially cruel is not the ending itself. Clear endings hurt, but they are survivable. What destroys is the lack of closure. When someone says, "I don't want this anymore," the pain is sharp, but the brain can process it. When someone disappears, the mind enters a loop. It replays conversations, analyzes tone, timing, and words, searching desperately for the moment everything went wrong. And almost always, the conclusion is the same. The blame turns inward. This is where self-worth begins to erode. The person starts questioning their value, their intensity, their attractiveness, their timing, their vulnerability. The silence becomes an internal voice that whispers, "Maybe you were too much. Maybe you weren't enough." Not because it's true, but because the mind would rather accept self-blame than live with uncertainty. Ghosting traps a person in emotional suspension. There is no full grief, because the loss was never confirmed. There is no anger, because there was no confrontation. There is no acceptance, because hope is still alive, quietly, painfully alive. The individual lives between "it's over" and "maybe they'll come back," and as long as that space exists, the suffering continues. Those who practice ghosting are rarely emotionally strong. More often, they are emotionally avoidant. They struggle with discomfort, with accountability, with honest communication. Disappearing feels easier than facing the emotional impact of their actions. Ghosting is not maturity. It is emotional escape. It prioritizes personal comfort over another person's psychological well-being. This does not mean ghosters are always intentionally cruel. Many are confused, emotionally underdeveloped, or incapable of holding difficult conversations. But intent does not erase impact. The damage still exists, even when the silence was not meant to harm. Being silenced creates an invisible wound. Unlike direct rejection, which closes the door, silence leaves it slightly open, and a door left open feeds hope. Days turn into weeks, weeks into months. Each day of waiting becomes a quiet trauma. Each unanswered expectation deepens the wound. Here is the truth most people struggle to accept. Ghosting says far more about the person who disappears than the one who is left behind. It reveals fear of responsibility, lack of empathy, and emotional immaturity. None of these define your worth, and yet, silence convinces people that it does. Healing begins the moment waiting ends, not by understanding the reason for the silence, because that reason may never come, but by recognizing that silence is an answer. A painful one, an unfair one, but an answer nonetheless. Continuing to seek closure from someone who chose disappearance only prolongs the injury. Creating your own closure is an act of self-respect. It is acknowledging that you deserved clarity, honesty, and emotional responsibility, and that someone who could not offer those things was not capable of sustaining a healthy connection with you. If you've experienced this, know this: it hurt because you cared, because you invested, because you were emotionally present. That is not weakness. It is proof of humanity in a world increasingly afraid of depth. If this message resonated with you, write in the comments what silence made you feel. Sharing your experience allows others to recognize their own pain. Leave a like if this helped you find clarity, and subscribe to the channel. Here, we explore the invisible wounds of human relationships, the ones that aren't seen but are deeply felt.